everyone! So before we start, I just want to say this is my first ever non-animation video. This feels kind of weird, but I've been wanting to make like a long-form video for a while now. So yeah, I have a basic script, but I'm probably going to go off script because I can't be bothered to read the entire script word for word. I also want to point out, first of all, this video will not be including any content related to Project Corrupted Creations. That game is way too work in progress. There will be a time I will talk about that game and start making progress updates, but now is simply not that time. We're not anywhere close to that time. Second of all, this video will only, this entire series will only be talking about corrupteds from ECOS and Chronophobia. There isn't really a specific order I'm going in about characters. I'm just talking about whoever I feel like talking about. If I don't talk about your favorite characters in this video, feel free to recommend them. I'm open to hearing your recommendations. Third, I want to point out I'm not going to be talking about any AU characters. I want to save all those for their own video one day. I do also want to mention this video will be containing a lot of disturbing imagery and body horror, along with heavy spoilers for ECOS and Chronophobia. If you want to skip certain parts or just click off, I understand. Another thing I want to mention is that I don't own every character in this video. At the end, there will be creator credits. Please go check out the creators for certain characters. They're cool people. Also, another thing to point out, if you want to know about the non-corrupted versions of characters, please go either check out my content or the creators' content. I won't be going too deep into that stuff. If you want to learn more, go see our content. Trust me, we all make cool stuff, in my opinion. Now, for those who are either new to my content and don't know what corruption is, or they do know, but they just want to have more information, here's a quick explanation. In series, corruption is a very well-known but decently rare type of mutating virus. There are 3 different forms corruption itself can come in, either liquid, parasitic, or dried up. Liquid corruption is, as the name suggests, liquid. Liquid corruption corrupts the creatures via physical contact with them by melting and fading into their bodies. When it happens like this, their corrupted form tends to have where they were corrupted from very main focus. It'll be the most flashy part of them. Parasitic corruption is the only type of corruption that can occur naturally without any sort of chaos magic creature being involved. Usually, this type of corruption, which is a little parasect by the way, they crawl into their hosts via small cuts in their body and sit there for long periods of time. The parasite, however, only activates once the host feels a strong enough emotion, which then it will melt inside of them and corrupt them. Finally, dried up corruption, which is when the liquid corruption sits there for a long period of time and eventually dries and hardens into a big pile of small spikes. When touching a creature, it pricks them with a bunch of these little parasites that are really, really tiny, tinier than parasitic corruption. And they clob inside of them wherever they're stabbed, like a ball. These, however, behave differently than normal parasitic corruption. Once they're in a creature's body, they do slowly start to melt inside of them. But the more, whatever they're inside of starts feeling strong emotions, the more quickly they're gonna melt and start to burn their body. Eventually, though, especially if they feel strong enough emotion, it will completely melt and corrupt them. However, it is noticeable with this type of corruption, most of the time a creature is corrupted with this, they tend to not be fully corrupted. The other 2 are a lot more successful in fully corrupting the creature in question. Design-wise, corrupteds take one of 2 design types depending on how they were corrupted. Creatures who were corrupted via having it implanted into their body don't have any black ooze that other corrupteds usually have, nor will they have specific parts of their design that are clearly the emphasis of their design. Instead, all of their new corrupted parts will match the color of their normal body. Corrupteds, however, who didn't have something force the corruption inside their body, they just naturally went and came into contact with corruption, will have black ooze all over them, and there will be specific parts of their design that's clearly the emphasis. To specify though, when I say something like corruption is forced into them, I don't mean like another creature trying to like get them to touch corruption. What I mean is that they went out of their way to put it inside of their body. If the corruption itself didn't come into contact with the creature and decide, I'm going to corrupt this, and it was instead just put inside of them without any choice, that will cause them to not have any black ooze. If, though, the corruption came into contact with the creature, it wasn't forced to, and it decided, I'm going to corrupt this creature, then it will have black ooze. Speaking of which, there are only 2 different types, technically 3, of corruption that can happen. I'm going to just start off with the basic 2 before we go into that weird 3rd one. The 2 main types of corrupted are fully corrupted and not fully corrupted. Corrupteds in general are covered head to toe in large bulging red eyes, and their appearance takes the look of some sort of animal, insect, bird, etc. Sometimes what animal or whatever their design takes the look of can be influenced by the creature's interests, abilities, or traits. A corrupted's behavior may also be influenced by the original creature's personalities or emotions during their last moments prior to being corrupted. Corrupteds who aren't like this, though, tend to just be creatures of complete animalistic behavior and violence. Now back to fully corrupteds and not fully corrupteds. When a creature is fully corrupted, all of the eyes covering their body will be completely red. Fully corrupteds have no conscience of their original selves and lack intelligence in general. Fully corrupteds also tend to be extremely violent to those who aren't corrupted, either seeing them as food, a danger, or both. Not fully corrupteds, however, are a bit different, as some of the eyes in their body will not be completely red. The number of this, though, will be influenced by the amount of conscience they have. Speaking of which, not fully corrupteds usually keep their conscience and control over their body, though with a few side effects. The corruption itself may mess with or even heighten their emotions more than average. It may affect some of their usual habits. They will lose the ability to speak and instead just make animalistic noises. And it may also affect their diet depending on what animal they're supposed to be. There are also some cases where not fully corrupteds only kept small little pieces of their conscience and memories, but not enough to keep them completely aware of their situation and not be animalistic. Some corrupteds, however, do have the issue regarding their emotions. If the not fully corrupted creature is able to reach a breaking point from stress and strong emotions, they will eventually break into a blind rage, attacking anyone and anything nearby with extreme violence until they've calmed down, no matter if it's a creature they're close with or not. Now, on to that weird 3rd case, robotic corruption. Robotic corruption, the rules with it only affect robots if the corrupted in question is a robot. No matter if fully corrupted or not, they will keep their conscience, and they even will be able to speak. The thing is, however, is that being fully corrupted or not changes if they can or cannot control their actions. If a robot is fully corrupted when near the presence of a not corrupted, they will lose control of their body and be forced to either attack the not corrupted creature or run away. This control, however, will be regained if they were to either kill the non-corrupted or get far enough away from them. Another thing about the corruption process that is important to know is that not every creature can be corrupted. Creatures who have some sort of chaotic magic flowing through them won't be affected, no matter if said chaotic magic is very powerful or very minor in them. Another thing is that fully corrupteds won't actually show any aggression towards creatures with chaos magic, unless though if they were to attack them, because logically speaking, they would defend themselves if they were being attacked. Another thing to note is that liquid corruption actually comes from chaos magic. Chaos magic users are the ones who actually make liquid corruption and is the reason why it exists. To uncorrupt a creature, there's two methods for this. First of all, the most simple one is to stab out all of the corrupted eyes, which will eventually make them return to their normal form. The only problem though is that this will be extremely painful for the corrupted and may even be dangerous to do. The other way is to make a special formula that when splashed onto a not fully corrupted will revert them out of their corrupted form. To note, however, this only works if they're not fully corrupted. If they're fully corrupted, nothing will happen. They won't care. Okay, now that all that's been discussed, let's go into the creatures who I will be discussing in this video. To clarify, I'm going to be recapping how they got corrupted and my thought process when making their designs, trying to figure out their behaviors, stuff like that. Let's get on to the first character. They were trying to save the world, trying to stop Stryker. They found his weakness, water. And Fushi, he can control water. He could actually stop him. He can protect not just his family, not just his friends, but everyone. Last, she had ice breath, and Boom was in general powerful, even being able to draw with Stryker prior to this. They could really do this. The trio worked together, and Stryker, he was actually losing. As he finally started dying and melting, however, he yelled at Fushi and Blast, blaming them for ruining everything he'd been working on. Everything up to this moment was completely ruined by them. This strange liquid started oozing from his hands. Fushi's mother was calling to him, telling him to get away from Stryker. So he did. He took Blast with him, went to the others, even leaving his spirit form and returning to normal. It was fine now, right? Stryker lost. He'd be returning to his Testamy form again. They stopped him. It was over, right? Suddenly, Boom was yelling at him. He was trying to warn him about something, but he didn't know what. He slowly turned around, looking back at Stryker, and he felt a crack in his glass. A pressure building up inside it as all the water got replaced by this viscous black liquid. The color is so dark, you wouldn't even be able to see his goldfish no matter how hard you tried to look. Suddenly, more cracks started to form as these black oozy tentacles started coming out of his head, breaking out of him without any mercy. He wanted to stop, but it wouldn't. His hands became clawed, the glowing lights on his limbs turned red, his eyes were turning red, black liquid poured all over the ground around him. His legs were covered now in this ooze as it started to restrain him, forming these tentacles around his legs now too, as some more of the ooze became some sort of shark tail. Eventually, it was over. He looked at Blast, still shaking, and saw that she got hit too. She became a corrupted monster as well. All their friends stood around them, even his family, all staring at them both in horror. No one knew what to do. Blast suddenly got hostile, hissing at all their friends. He didn't understand why. Why was she doing this? These were people that they care about. Suddenly, his legs, or now tentacles, started to move. He couldn't even control himself, his body disobeying him as he took the now corrupted Blast and ran away from the only people who could have helped them. He couldn't even stop. He just kept running and running and running until... they found a safe enough place. A small lake that now aquatic creatures could stay in. He didn't know why this was happening. He just wanted to go home, be back with his family, see Blast be normal again and not be a monster. Blast wouldn't even talk to him. She was completely animalistic. She wasn't herself anymore. Just a shell of what used to be his best friend. The one person he still had wasn't even there anymore. She was just a husk of what she used to be. He was truly alone now. Oh boy, we're starting off strong with Fushi. It took so long to figure out a design that I actually kind of liked and felt like Gardens might like. I did make quite a few designs, but I kept either not liking them or I just felt like it didn't fit his character and scrapped them. I remember we were planning out his Chronophobia fight, couldn't decide who would be there. The plan was for it to be Olander, Coffee, and Sketchy, for the sake of having the characters who were corrupted earlier be able to fight a corrupted, because they didn't get to do that before. And then we add Prism and Blackie to the group. Then we got rid of Sketchy and Coffee in place for Meadow. And then we finally got rid of Meadow, which just left Olander, Prism, and Blackie. Originally, here's a little fun fact. In the comic that would trigger the fight, I kind of had the idea of getting them to take a boat into the lake and then finding them in the middle of the area. But I ended up scrapping this because it didn't make sense. If Fushi did hear his family or Blackie calling to him, he probably would have come out and not just sit there waiting for them to be in the worst position they could be. And even then, Blackie floats! And both Olander and Prism spirit forms also floats! It counters the entire idea. And I ended up just simplifying it, because honestly, it didn't need to be a complex fight. I just wanted the main focus to be on the characters' reactions to the situation. It didn't need to be too complicated for the fight. We ended up, in the fight, we did what I wanted it to happen. So yeah. I know in, making his, concept ref, I gave Fushi glitched eyes. It's a minor detail, it's not too important. But I keep forgetting to draw this. So, oopsie. Another little fun fact of this design is the eye placements on the tentacles. Usually, corrupteds, their eye placements are random all over the place. But his eye placements are actually really, really intentional. And the reason is I want to make them look like suction cups. How octopuses, tentacles, their arms or whatever, they have little suction cups on them. I wanted to make the eyes kind of replicate this. And another little thing is, another detail with the tentacles themselves is that, specifically, whenever I draw them, 4 of them are coming out of his head, 4 are on his lower half, since octopuses have 8 tentacles. And I want it to match up with that. And a fun little fact of the shark tail, the reason it was added was because, first of all, I felt like he needed a tail. His design felt like he was missing something. And 2, this is much more of a minor detail, but I want to find a way to bring his sharp teeth into the design. I know Fushi naturally has sharp teeth, but I felt like trying to find a way to tie this in kind of made it interesting. I know sharks have sharp teeth, So it kind of made sense and kind of like played into that a little bit. Oh my god, saying sharp so many times, not fun. Wow, I'm having trouble saying that. Anyways, fun little scrapped idea. I never actually drew this, but I was considering the idea of making his goldfish like float around him and be corrupted too. But I ended up scrapping this because I felt like it overcomplicated him too much. And I wanted his focus to be on how he's handling the situation emotionally and not his design itself. I still want his design to be scary though. A little bit hard to make the cute little emotional child support robot or emotional support robot look scary. A little hard, but I think I did a good job. Anyways, there's a few designs that I did scrap for him. The following designs I actually haven't even shown Noelle. She's never seen these, so let's go through the designs together. The first one was this anglerfish one. If you cannot tell, this was scrapped so quickly. I didn't even finish making it. That's why it looks so unfinished. Before I proposed my draft idea to Gardens, this was like the original one I was trying to go with. The cool little concept was during the corruption process, something would go wrong. The black liquid would start like flowing into a circuit, so it would mess him up and eventually make him start acting zombified due to the damage. But this idea was scrapped really quickly. Because even with the, like, before the original story proposal, I didn't even like the idea. It felt really boring. And I kind of felt like it was somewhat ripping off Star Wand. So I immediately was like, no, let's do something else. And plus I wanted to make them definitely a lot more noticeably different compared to the other Chronophobia corrupteds. The second one was this, like, clam and pearl themed one. The idea, corrupting-wise, was that Stryker would have just completely covered him in corruption, which would then form this big clam that he would be trapped inside. The idea was that he would look like a pearl, and then during the fight, like, it would just be making him watch it attack everyone. Sizing-wise, like, in my head, it was planned to be around 1 corrupted Olander and 1 prism tall. This idea was, again, scrapped really quickly because I felt like it didn't fit his character, and we already had a character in Chronophobia that was corrupted and was supposed to be the big, tall, scary one. Olander. But, yeah, and again, it just didn't feel different enough. I want him to be more interesting. I did kind of reuse this concept, though, in DA with the Crystal Spider and Equata. This was kind of reused, though pretty majorly tweaked. I don't know. Okay, the next design that was scrapped was this, like, sea urchin one. This is one of the first ones I kind of thought of in my head, and I did like the idea in my head, but in execution, I didn't like it. Concept-wise, my plan was for him to be stationary. Like, he'd be able to, like, summon these, like, spikes from the ground and be able to, like, use the spikes on his body to defend himself, but not be able to move around. I don't have much else planned for this design because I never really finished it. I ended up just scrapping him because I couldn't draw a design I felt like fit him and I felt like was okay. And I didn't also know how to get away from the group, which is something that I knew in my head needed to happen. Especially if you can't even move. Like, come on. Blast is not big enough to carry him. Even in not corrupted, she still can't do it. And another thing is that, also along with all the other designs prior to this, I felt like next to Blast, he didn't really fit. And it just, because the main thing, because these two were a pair, when making their designs, I wanted them next to each other to look like they were meant to be there. But with a lot of Fushi's designs, I kept feeling like that he didn't fit the vibe. So yeah, that's why this one was scrapped. Okay, this is the final one. If you can't tell, this is the closest scrap design to what we end up getting. If you also can't tell, I still didn't want to let go of the sea urchin idea, man. I still really liked it. Eventually, I finally let go, got rid of the sea urchin stuff, and added the tentacles. Because I realized he did not look like a sea urchin. He looked like he had evil scientist hair. Like, in those cartoons, it was all, like, spiked out, and I couldn't stop laughing at it. So, yeah, I ended up playing around with the head tentacle idea instead, and I liked it way more. And eventually, that would be the one I'd send to OL, and she would give me the thumbs up for. So yeah, I don't know, I'm really happy with this finalized design. I feel like he looks good. Like, I feel like I got the scary factor in well for the finalized design, and I feel like next to Blast, he looks like he should be there. During her corruption, through all of the shearing, burning pain, Blast only had one thing on her mind, Fushi. She knew and realized that he was corrupting. She wanted nothing but to help, make him feel safe, protect him. But she couldn't. She couldn't even move because every movement felt like hell. After she finally fully corrupted and woke up, she only had one thing on her mind. The one thing she couldn't stop thinking. Protect Fushi. She quickly noticed they were surrounded by creatures who would hurt him. She was ready to throw herself at them all just to keep him safe. But luckily for her, they both ended up running away. Once they got to their lake, a safe place, a home, Blast thought they were completely safe. But she was confused. Why was he still upset? He shouldn't be upset. He was safe now. She was there to protect him. He should be happy. She tried to cheer him up. Maybe playing with him would make him feel happy. But he was still upset. She just couldn't understand why he could be sad. She could barely even understand the kid. Everything felt like static to her. Nothing registered through her head. Blast stayed by his side the whole time. No matter what, she was going to protect him. It was the only thing she could think about. Protect him at all cost. And she would, laying and waiting, ready to tear the face off of any creature who dared approach him. Because no matter what, she would be there to protect him. Designing Blast, I always wanted the piranha design. My main idea for her is that she's kind of going to be like a guard dog for Fushi. I know there's other fish that have sharp teeth, but I always wanted the piranha just due to sizing and because it was just immediately what came to me. I actually drew her before making Fushi's design, since in my head, honestly, like, it was a lot more 100% that this was going to be the design than what he had. And then I just started putting all the ones I made for Fushi next to her to see if they fit together. This also kind of played into why the sea urchin design was kind of scrapped. Because it just kept looking weird next to her. Like, I don't know, Blast is always going to be some sort of sea animal. Like, this is something that was set in stone. I wanted her and Fushi to match. And there wasn't, like, any reality that Fushi wouldn't have been some sort of aquatic creature. Like, that was guaranteed. I did kind of consider letting her keep the scarf, but I actually kind of wanted to drop it for the design. And the reason being is that I wanted, like, her teeth to be very visible. Because it felt like a big part of her character. But, yeah. I wanted... Yeah, it also kind of helped her look slightly deranged and feral, which is kind of the vibe I went for. Parts of her design were slightly inspired by other OCs of mine, like Icor and Sabery. You can kind of tell with a few parts. But yeah, I don't know. I wanted to keep the hat though. The hat I was gonna keep. It's just too important for her design. The little fun fact, I guess like lore reason, the reason her hat doesn't fall off while she's underwater is because the black liquid on her is like attaching the hat to her body. So we probably can't even remove her hat. It's just stuck on her. The scarf though, it just fell off while she was corrupting and she didn't have the intelligence to pick it back up. Like Fushi though, like she didn't need a flashy design. I wanted her to be simple but still really creepy and unsettling, since I wanted a lot of her focus to be on her behavior, and mainly just how protective and clingy she was with Fushi. I'm really happy with her design. I wish I did have beta concepts to show off for her, but there literally isn't any. Like, this was immediately the design I drew. This does happen time to time. Like, there's a few characters this happened for. Like, I know Olander is a good example of this, and same as like Aqueda, which you guys don't get to see in this video. You guys have to wait till later one day. But yeah, I don't know, I just figured out Blast's design really, really quickly and made her this guy. He didn't know it was going to be dangerous. He thought touching it would be fine. He didn't know what it would do to him. He was with Hoodaloop, trying to find a way to sneak himself out of something space before it knew he was here. He knew something here wanted to hurt him. He just couldn't remember who they were. His head throbbed. Everything felt like static around him anytime he even tried to think about this thing. He couldn't even remember its name. They eventually end up in this room, but it looked like something horrid happened here. It was some sort of surgical room. There was a bed in the middle, and on both sides of the bed were these two massive saw blades. And all over the bed, all over the saw blades, was this spiky, red, dried up substance. He touched it, only for a second, but the pain was immediate. This strange glob started squirming inside of his arm. Hoodaloop seemed panicked seeing it, and started digging through a storage closet. He wouldn't explain what this was, why it was so bad, and it just made him more scared. NS started reflecting on his life, his friends, Kunai. He just wished he could see him one last time. Eventually, Hoodaloop found what he needed to at least try to save NS, but he accidentally knocked over this box of figurines. And after NS saw one specific one, the memories flooded back to him. The memories of a demon who's haunted his dreams for 4 years now, Striker. This was the final straw for him, and he snapped, his body twisting and bending as he slowly corrupted. His thoughts became more and more selfish, thinking he was going to die, very, very slowly, and he blamed Hoodaloop for it. This wouldn't have happened if he didn't kidnap him in the first place. He didn't even need to kidnap him. He could have just talked to him. This was his fault. Hoodaloop tried to comfort him in his final moments. He promised no matter what happened, he would fix this. Eventually, it was over. He wasn't completely corrupted, however. He managed to hold on to his mind, just enough that he was still conscious. After this, Striker showed up, face to face with him, the demon who has haunted his dreams for years. He ended up locking him up with this fully corrupted, and the two of them were stuck together for a while. But eventually, him and this other corrupted would manage to break out. NS would wander around the outside world for a while, being attacked by Holly, stressing out more and more, wondering where his friends were, if he would ever even see them again. Eventually, he found them, but he also found Striker. In this moment, he finally snapped and completely lost it. His mind being filled with pure terror and blind animalistic rage. Kunai approached him. No, this wasn't him. This couldn't be him. Striker was messing with him. The memories of the pain from the demon lingered in his mind. This couldn't be Kunai. This couldn't be any of them. He wouldn't let this creature hurt him again. None of these people were his friends. And suddenly, as Kunai approached him and held his arm towards him, he didn't even think about it. He bit on his arm, pulled and pulled until... Designing Corrupted in S the plan was always he was going to be a dog. Like, before designing him, I did some research on animals that were connected to ninjas. Like, there's a few I liked. The dog idea did really stand out to me, and I felt like a dog or a puppy really did fit his character for a lot of reasons. Another thing is, I didn't want him to be too complicated or look like a massive scary monster, because, like, sure, his fight was definitely very horror-focused and a bunch of parts, but we gotta keep in mind, like, deep down, like, he was just a traumatized kid, and he was in the middle of losing his mind. His corrupted design was made in, like, the very early stages of me trying to figure out full lore for corruption and how it worked. So there's a lot. It took me a little bit to find something I did like, mainly color-wise. I wanted NS's design to both look cute and scary, which is another reason why I love the dog idea. Dogs can look really cute, and they can be really playful, but in situations where they are aggressive, they can be really scary and dangerous, even the small ones. Like, come on, I don't even need to say anything about Chihuahuas. Another thing to keep in mind is that I designed him with the context as corrupted would be his design for most of the ECOS story. And I need him to have a design that next to, like, Kunai or Blackie, for example, looked like he fit in. Which, again, is why I didn't want him to have some massive, scary, like, kaiju kind of design. Because if he was, like, a big, massive monster, I feel like next to Kunai, Blackie, Smoke Bomb, any of the other characters in the group, he just wouldn't fit. A little fun fact, the whole part of NS tearing off Kunai's arm, that was the most last-minute planned-out thing ever. Literally, the day before the comic came out, I thought of the idea, told Game Boy about it, and scripted the entire thing night before I was supposed to post the comic. Now, looking back, should have I delayed the comic a bit to give me a little more time to plan this out? Yes, I should have. Did it still turn out good? Yeah, it did. It definitely did. I'm still happy with how it played out. And NS does actually have a few betas, but they're not as wild as Fushi's were, so yeah. If you can't tell these early betas, I didn't know what the upper half dog part would look like. And I didn't know what colors to use. But I just kept being unhappy with it. Like, eventually I was kind of happy with the black one with the eyes. But even then, I still felt like something was off about him. And before he would appear as corrupted in the comic, like, I would just keep tweaking his design. Like, making it have more dog-like features, like giving it an actual snout, and eventually I was, like, happy enough with it that I was like, okay, this is the design. There is one other design for NS that was kind of in my head that I thought about, but got scrapped really quickly. I never actually drew it. I would describe it, but I'm not gonna do that this time because, like, I am kind of reusing this concept for Corrupted in a future ECOS series that isn't public yet. So I don't know, when it's public and I talk about that Corrupted, I'll bring this up. Maybe I'll try to draw out this, like, unused Corrupted NS for, like, the betas for this character. But you guys don't get to see that yet because I don't want to leak stuff for stuff that isn't public. A fun little detail that was kind of something I thought of doing in the early stages for designing him was instead of having the band on his tail, I was considering it having it, like, around his neck to make it look like a collar, but I ended up not doing this because it made him look a little too cluttered. So I just moved it to his tail and was a little happier with it. I don't know. I'm pretty happy with NS's design right now. He's definitely one of the ones that helped me figure out how to design Corrupteds properly and helped me figure out, writing-wise, how the lore should be. But I don't know. I'm just pretty happy with how he turned out. Thank you all, like, so much for watching the video to the end. Honestly, I've been having, like, a lot of fun showcasing and talking about these designs, the behind the scenes for them. As I said earlier, if there's other characters from ECOS or Chronophobia that you want me to talk about, like, please don't be afraid to recommend them. This is my first ever long-form video, and this took me a decent amount of time to finish up. But I really, really hope I did a good job. Before, I go, first of all, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. This feels so cringy to say, oh my god, if you like my content, please maybe consider subscribing. I say as I rub my hands together and sneakily look the other way. Second of all, here's the credits. Shout out to the people here. Go check them out. They're both amazing friends and amazing people to work with these characters. And I really hope you all have an amazing day. Bye!